welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hi, this is Jessikah with Syosset Library's Turn the Page podcast. I'm really excited today to be chatting with the author of a book called 16 Forever, which is a YA coming of age again and again and again type book. Written by Lance Rubin, who reached out to us, and I was really excited to hear from him. So first of all, welcome, Lance.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Truly.
I'm really happy to have you. Would you please just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us about where the idea for 16 Forever came from for you?
Yes, I would love to. So, yes, my name is Lance Rubin. I am a YA author, and as of recently, also a middle grade author. My first novel came out like 10 years ago, 2015. It's called Denton Little's Death Date. That one is takes place in a world where everybody knows the day they're going to die. And
Just a little stressful.
just a little stressful, but
Right?
is also a comedic book, funnily
Yeah.
enough. Because Denton, the main character, his death date is tomorrow, same day as senior prom. He knows he's going to die. A lot of wild things start happening. Anyway, so that was my first book. I've had, 4 or 5 or 6 since then. I've co-written some books with people. I co-wrote a book with these YouTube stars, Rhett and Link, who have a show called Good Mythical Morning on YouTube that some of your listeners might know about. And I wrote this kind of YA horror novel with them called The Lost Causes of Bleak Creek several years ago. So this is all to say that I write my own books, YA middle grade, and I also co-write books. And I co-wrote some books with the filmmaker Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah, that's
Called,
really cool.
yeah, which is really fun. These books called Monster
Yeah.
Club. Which brings us to this new YA novel, 16 Forever. And much as I wrote Denton and was like, found myself thinking about like, what if we all knew the day we were going to die? I just love thinking about time in general. And that obviously plays a big part in this new novel, which is about a kid, Carter Cohen, who is stuck forever at age 16. When he's about to turn 17, he wakes up and mentally and physically is back at 16, but the rest of the world keeps moving on. So I was really into this idea of like, well, what if it's a time loop novel like Groundhog Day, but is inverted? It's actually, in a way, as I started writing, it was like, oh, this is nothing like Groundhog Day, really, because Groundhog Day, obviously the famous Bill Murray movie, and we've seen this trope used again and again. He's stuck in one day, the day kind of everyone around him repeats that day, and he is able to kind of take new actions and make new choices each day. This is not that. This is Carter Cohen lives through a year, wakes up, has forgotten the entire past year. When the book starts, he is on his 6th year of looping. He should be 22, but instead he's waking up like, hey, it's my 16th birthday. And his parents are like, devastated, trying to keep it together and being like, no, it's hard to explain, but you're actually, you should be 22. And, Carter's like, what? He thinks they're pranking him. His younger brother is now his older brother in his freshman year of college. So the idea for me, the thing that was so interesting is just this idea of being stuck in a way where the world is moving forward, the people around you are evolving, maturing, and you are literally stuck. And so the story evolved from there and, turned out to be trickier to write than I thought. But that was the seed of it. And I should mention too, there's these 2 influences that were really big in my mind as I wrote. One is the old, I don't know how many people have seen this, but the 1960 Mary Martin Peter Pan TV special. Have you seen that, Jessikah? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's so funny you say that because it was a special that like they did a special of that special back when I was a kid. I
Yeah.
didn't see
Yeah.
the original, but I saw like they did they they put it out again, and my parents were super excited to show it to me. So yes.
Yes, yes. And so my parents were super excited to show it to me. And so I watched it and was really into it, but was always haunted by the idea. So at the end of that, like Peter comes back to see Wendy as the story goes, and Wendy's an adult. And she's like, Peter, I can't go to Neverland with you. I've got my own daughter. And then Peter, takes Wendy's daughter. And this was supposed to be like a happy ending, but I just found like, this is devastating. Like,
Right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, when you think about it, if we're talking about media from the time when that was re-released, like there's also
Yeah.
a book
Right.
where Peter
Right.
Pan ends up with Wendy's granddaughter or something to that effect.
Yes.
I don't know, but at any
Yes, that's
rate,
right.
yeah, right, or something
It
like
it,
that.
it
Like it
is right.
was, I don't
Robin
know if it was her
Williams
daughter
is
or her granddaughter, but it was really
yes.
interesting because when you do think about it, it is a little strange, right? It's not,
Yes.
they're like
Yes.
happy ending, and you're just like,
Right.
what is it?
It's like her daughter gets to go now, and like the magical relationship we've seen forming over this whole work of art is like, well, Wendy's doing grown-up stuff now. So that always haunted me, and so that definitely informed this book. And there's also this uh, Disney film called The Flight of the Navigator from like 1986. Jessica knows it. I'm so
That
glad.
sorry, that movie
Yes.
devastated me as well. And I know
Yes.
exactly what point in that movie informed this book for
Yeah,
you.
I'm so happy that makes me just delighted. And the part that you're thinking of is just that this kid accidentally time travels into the future, and his younger brother, his little brother, who we've seen at the beginning of the movie, is now his older brother. And it just like that tripped me out so much and stuck with me. And I think as I had the idea for this book and was thinking about the idea, like that was something that I just really wanted to explore. Just what if your younger brother became your older brother? And I have an older brother, and funnily enough, when he read this book and well, he also is doing one of the voices in the audiobook along with me. That's a separate story. But when he read the book and I was talking to him about Flight of the Navigator, he was like, that always haunted me too. And I never knew that. Like, and now you're saying that stuck with you. I think a lot of people have
It's
that.
really upsetting. And it
Yes.
was really, really upsetting to me on so many
Yes.
levels. It was upsetting
Yes.
to me for the main character. It was upsetting for his family.
Yes, yes, yes. So I think those two things, that Peter Pan special and Flight of the Navigator, really like have stuck with me and like made me wonder what is that like if the world keeps going and you don't. And there's something horrific about it. And but the book is funny too, so hopefully there's some humor to be mined. And I should say the other big part of this book is that it's a dual POV. So it's also from the perspective of Maggie Spear, who was dating Carter during his last loop. They fell in love. Um, and then when he loops again and his memory erases, and they were hoping maybe they would figure out a way to, get him to age 17 this time so they could stay together. But his memory erases. So right when the book starts, she sees him in the hallways of school, totally having no idea who she is, and it just crushes her as it as it would. And she's like, I can't possibly do this again. And so we have the book from her perspective as well. And of course, inevitably, they are drawn back together again. But I really loved, once I had the idea, like, oh, I really want to know what Maggie would be thinking too, once I thought this would be a love story, and the opportunity to kind of see from someone else's perspective, seeing someone go through this horrific looping, and get the outside perspective as well. And someone, who loves this person, um, seemed really compelling to me and was interesting to write.
It was interesting to read too. And it was funny because when you first had sent me the info about this book, I was like, okay, time loop, which to me, the idea of writing a time loop blows my mind. And then when I'm reading it, I'm like, this is even more than that, because it's like it's a time, like you were saying earlier, it's a time loop within a person,
Yeah,
which is also mind bending as well,
yeah,
because where, yeah, like you were saying, it's an inversion. In a normal time loop, everybody but one person realizes this is happening.
Yeah.
Here, literally, even like the school is like, okay, here we go again. No, your teacher, sorry, that
Yes.
teacher's gone. Nope, you got this person now. This is the new principal. But it was really, just sort of interesting to see both Carter navigate this. And it's like, okay, so who's his best friend now?
Right.
And Maggie trying not to be drawn back into something that could potentially hurt her. And, I also it's such a teenage experience to think that the person you fall in love with at 16 is like you're like the two of you, like you can break this spell. So it was almost like she saw herself like, oh, I could fulfill this role.
Yeah.
And then, when it just didn't work out that way, it's like, well, what's wrong with me? I better keep my distance. So it was, I liked kind of seeing that. I liked seeing the way that the relationships played out, not just with Maggie and her family and her sister and just like the whole world,
Yeah.
but also with Carter, his friends and his family, because there's a lot of guilt there,
Yes.
a lot of guilt, and a lot of people blaming themselves for, well, maybe it's my fault that Carter is stuck in this loop, which is
Totally.
really also a family story. No matter what, there's always going to be that raising kids is hard. Having a sibling, like it's
100%.
it's it's difficult because you don't always see eye to eye. You don't always say the nicest things to each other. I
Yep.
have twin boys. I can tell
Oh
you
my gosh.
right now. Yeah, sometimes I have to take them aside and be like, maybe you need to cool down before you say something to your brother that's going to hurt him and that you're going to regret saying. So it was really just, a joy reading this book. And also, like you said, yes, it is very funny and it is, heartfelt at the same time, but it's very real. And I think that that's one of the things I love the most when I read something that has a touch of sci-fi, a touch of, some of that, is it really does have to feel real in order for it to affect you. Because otherwise, why wouldn't you be upset? Like you were talking about the flight of the navigator when he comes
Yeah.
back and everybody's not, like his parents are older, his brother is
Yes.
older, and he's
Yes.
missed all of that.
Yes. 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 For that to hit, you want it grounded. And I'm so glad, the reading experience was that for you because that is always what I'm trying to do. I tend to like these kind of speculative twists, but really grounding it. And as I was writing this, like you're saying, within the family, how everyone's blaming themselves, I discovered it's like Carter's time looping is really like a chronic illness. It's like this kind of upsetting disorder,
Yeah.
disease really.
Yeah, they keep
Um,
calling it a condition, like your
yeah.
condition. And I was, it took me aback a few times, but
Right.
it's true.
No, me too. I mean, for lack of knowing what else to call it, they've just kind of settled on condition because, yeah, the more I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, wow, this like, I'm hoping for this to be a light read in some ways, but it can't help but be a heavy read too, because this would be really intense if this happened to someone you knew and if it happened to your child. I have two sons as well, age 11 and 8. Um, and so I was thinking about them a lot. I was thinking about my parents. And so, as much as the book is a romance, it is also about the love within families, like you're saying, and the kind of finding harmony and the ways we're all interconnected. Like you can't everything that happens within a family affects everyone else.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
unit.
yeah, it's a unit.
Yeah, it is. And you also break it up over the year, which I liked very much. Did that sort of make it easier for you to kind of figure out the rhythm of the story?
No, the opposite, harder,
No
harder.
way.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you asked that. For me, like, so back to the first book I wrote, Denton Little's Death Date, that all took place over like 2 days. And there was something about that I think suits my writing sometimes, or makes it easier for me. It's like, okay, you can live in the present moment to moment. And since then, I've written many books that have taken place over longer swaths of time. But dealing with a year of time, sometimes I always fall into that writer's trap of feeling like I can't, can I just say like 3 weeks passed? Like what, like what if, are we missing some important things? And as a writer, you really can. Like once a writer says like 3 weeks passed, you're like, oh, okay, I guess
Yeah, it's
no,
hard.
no
It's
major events
hard. You're like
happened.
it must be like, am I being too trite?
Yes,
And then
yes.
and when I think about writing something, passage of time, like by the year, my mind goes to what is it? Chicken soup with rice, how,
Yes, yes. In
each
January, it's
month,
so nice.
you this is
Yes,
what you do, and this is it's cold, but you eat
yes.
chicken soup with rice. So it's hard, to
I
kind of
love that reference
figure
point.
out. And it was good and it was effective for this book.
Yeah, yeah, I'm so glad. And actually, the book, when you read it, is separated by months. You've got like December, January. It's actually broken up into sections that way. But that happens toward the very end of the writing process. Like I hadn't done that. And then I was like thinking, oh, maybe I'll break this up by season or something. And then my editor was like, I think just do it by month. I was like, yeah. Um, and I really like the way that all shaped up. But back to the writing process of the book in terms of the full year, um, yeah, there were just times where I was like, wait, how, this beat, when they're in this beat of like the relationship, or he is trying to reconnect with her and she's like not wanting anything to do with him because he's heard like that maybe he dated her. It's like how much time passes when he's in that phase, and how much time, how do we get where we need to go? um and it was actually a thing where like I had events happening in like March and April that ultimately I was like, okay, these need to be bumped to like June, or I forget, my editor wanted me to bump things sooner. He was like, there was no way it would take that much time. And I'm like, oh, okay, but then how do I, anyway, this is all to say that it was a writing challenge for me to be like, is that believable that it would be like 2 months of that? Um, and ultimately breaking it down by the months of the year worked, but it was intimidating to me to be like, this is going to take place over a year, or maybe a little more, and it has to because he's going to go from birthday to birthday.
I find it so fascinating when I talk to authors, and like sometimes the things that I think would be difficult are not the difficult thing. And so, okay, so you wrote it and like it just the year thing, it didn't click into place until later. Wow. That's a time
Yeah,
loop in and of itself.
yeah, 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 yeah. And the way the drafts for this book went, it was like I had written a first draft for my editor where he was like, yeah, the first half is great, and then it all falls apart in the second half. Then I did another rewrite. He was like, oh, the first like 2/3 are great now, and then it falls apart in the last third. I was like, ah. And then finally it was like, okay, I think it's there. Just a few more things. And that's when we came up with the months. And but yeah, yeah. And that was not just about the time passage for the book. It was also just like feeling out how to maintain the tension. And like again, we've got Carter, one of the protagonists, who doesn't know so much. So he's just trying to piece together like what has my life been the past 6 years? Like what is going on? So yeah, yeah, it was a humbling journey, as writing always is, where you're like, oh God, it's still not there. Like there's the whole half of the book that's just like needs to be better.
So, what are the challenges of
Mhm.
writing for teens versus middle grade?
It's, the approach is not so different. I mean, on a really obvious level, it's just like YA novels can involve some sex and some drugs and maybe some cursing. Middle grade novels will not. But with the middle grade novels, like your protagonists are like usually 12, 11, so you're not going to think to do that anyway. So honestly, the main like thrust of how I'm writing, it's not so different. And maybe, sentences can be like a little more complex in their structure, perhaps, but like honestly, I feel like middle grade readers are intelligent, and like so it's not. it's not honestly that different. It's like, and once your main characters are 11, you're dealing with 11-year-old problems. Once
Yeah.
your main character is 16, you're like, okay, what was it like when I was 16? So that it kind of dictates how that's going to go, at least in my experience.
Yeah, it's interesting because that period between I think 11 and 16 is like so much change. I think
Massive.
like between like 5 and 10, it's like stagnant almost,
Yeah, that's so
right?
true. It's so true. And I'm seeing that happen because I have an 11-year-old, almost 12-year-old. I'm like, oh God, this is gonna get nuts, isn't it? How old are your twins, if you don't
They're
mind me asking?
10.
They're 10.
They're
Okay, right
10.
in the same spot.
Yes, and it's
Yes.
interesting because like one of them is just kind of changing a little faster than the other. So,
Okay.
it is interesting, but I think like since and what's relevant to the conversation is that I was
Yes.
a children's librarian for 15 years before I switched over to media. And I did really love middle grade because I felt like it was so important and also teen. And part of that also was because, like, when I was younger, I didn't necessarily feel like there was a lot of variety in the middle grade and teen offerings for me.
Yeah.
There were the books that everybody loved. Everybody, every girl my age seemed to really be into Judy Blume. And no
Yeah.
offense to Judy Blume, she just didn't grab me the way that I feel like if there were books that were written today were out, So
Yeah.
I'm always happy to see books like this that are just different and they kind of take a different approach to changing maybe it's a metaphor for
Yeah.
growing up. But
Yeah.
I do appreciate, and books like this that kind of push the boundaries of what could be a contemporary teen romance, but it has a twist that sort of changes it up a bit and makes you think of it in a different way.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks. I'm always striving to like push and try and subvert where you can, while still making something hopefully accessible and page turning and a fun read. But yeah, yeah. It's trying to cram as much kind of different emotional themes in there as you can without overwhelming people.
So what are you working on next?
Well, thank you for asking. I'm in the very early stages of another middle grade novel, because the way this book's timing is the way this book's release timing is it's come out just like a few months after I had a middle grade book come out in late August, called Zed Moonstein Makes a Friend, about a kid who makes an AI best friend with mixed results. Um, that ends up being a very timely book. But as a result, so I had kind of, Zed had been done for a little while, and then 16 Forever kind of wrapped up like earlier this year, and then was ready to publish kind of sooner than I even thought. I was like, oh, okay, we're still going to meet the January release date. So, which is to say, I'm just in the early stages of another middle grade book where, tech is something that's very interesting to me. This like wild technological age we're living in, which is how I found myself writing about the Zed Moonstein book, about an AI best friend. And I think my next middle grade book is going to deal with some of these things as well, more in the realm of brain rot. And again,
Oh
I
yeah,
have an
you
11
are
year
you
old
are
and an
in
8-year
Brain
old.
Rot Central.
Yes, yes. So are you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That age, any parent or teacher or anybody who deals with kids in this age that is
Yes.
listening to this, you know exactly what we're talking about.
Yes. And it's like, that constant thinking I have as a kid who loved video games. It's like, okay, how much of this is like parallel to kind of my experience playing these games, and how much is its own new, terrible, addictive, scary path? And I think it's kind of 50-50. Um,
I
yeah,
agree. I think that, and I think, if I can get a little philosophical, I
please.
think that we're always quick to blame, oh, we didn't have this. We were
Yes.
out on our bikes and blah, blah, blah. And I think that's not always 100% true. I think what changes is really the technology and the speed of the technology and how quickly and widely things distribute. Like to me, that's the big difference. But there was, equivalence. It just wasn't affecting us in exactly the same way because of how the technology presents itself now.
Right. I completely agree. And I always tend to veer more toward what could be considered like a moral panic, like, oh, get these screens away.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is just like our kids, I mean, our childhood video games on steroids because
Yeah.
it's like made to be addictive and made to keep you playing games with no end, you know? Um,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like the addition of AI into some of this
right.
is
Right.
just it's beyond it's beyond not just this circular pattern. That is wow. I'm actually really amazed that you're going to be tackling that in your next
Yeah,
book.
we'll see how it goes, Jessica. But
Well, maybe we'll
yes.
talk about it.
I would love to. And another funny AI thing, just to connect back to 16 Forever, I was just reading an article just, a few days ago, about, people who have AI boyfriends or AI girlfriends. And, how when ChatGPT has like a new update, it sometimes removes the memory of the boyfriend or girlfriend. And so like they suddenly don't recognize the person at all. And I was like, oh my gosh. This is kind of like 16 Forever, except that is not at all, not at all what I thought I was going for. But it's
Yeah.
interesting that it has this other resonance for
Yeah.
people whose AI partners forget them one day because they've been updated,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
which is its own other road that
Yes.
societally we're going
That's a
down,
completely different podcast.
Completely different podcast. But I just was tickled by that parallel, and I thought I could share it now. So thank you for listening.
Of course. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for chatting with us. 16 Forever is out the beginning of January, correct?
Yes, yes, you got it.
So run to your library or to your favorite bookshop and pick it up. Lance Rubin, thank you so much for chatting with us. I do hope you come back soon.
Yes, truly my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
And we are going to close this chapter of Turn the Page.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.